My name is Rosie Frenzley. Originally from Stafford County, but I live in King George County now. Well, when I growing up in Stafford County, I was born to William S. White, William Sherman White, and Mary S. White, which was Mary Smallwood White, in 1944. I went to three different schools. My first elementary school was Leland Elementary School. Then I went to Berea School, which is up on 17 by the Berea Church now. Then I went to H.H. Poole Junior High School. And then my last year of school, we were signed to go to Stafford High School, which was integrated. I was the first one to step foot in Stafford High School. I'll never forget that day. My cousin, which is Sherman Gordon, everybody calls him Gordon Sherman White. He was so proud of that, all the work that he had done to get us, the school integrated until he stayed home from college to drive us, because he was a bus driver when he was going to school. And he was so proud of himself. He was so happy. But when we got there, when we made the circle, he just said, "Okay, now you can get off," and no one moved. Everybody was panicking. They were afraid to death. But finally he looked at me, he says, "Come on," he called me Sash, "Come on, Sash." And so when I come up to the front, and my best friend, which was Winnie Boxley, she's not here, she lives in DC now. When we hopped off the bus, right into the, right into the school we went. And then when we got into the auditorium, we had to find out what our classes were going to be. So had to take two classes at school, which was government and English. And I've always, all my life, I wanted to be some kind of caregiver. I wanted to take care of patients, take care of people, which I did, and I'll tell you about that in a little bit, but I took care of some people. But I had no idea that nursing, they weren't offering nursing at the black schools. So I didn't know anything about nursing. But when she told me that I needed 4 credits, but I had to take English and government, but nursing counted as 2, and I thought my heart would drop, because I knew that was what I was going to take. So I went over to Mary Washington Hospital and took the first course, which counted as 2 credits. And then when finished, then I was hired at Mary Washington Hospital as a CNA when I graduated in 1963. Then we had to take the second portion, and then I became a nurse in 1964, and I stayed there until 2010. So but it was, I really enjoyed nursing, loved nursing. But we started out a little hard, because when I first went to a hospital, it wasn't integrated. It was segregated. All the black patients were put on the 4th floor, and the white patients were scattered out through the rest of the hospital. But I didn't have to work just on the 4th floor. I worked everywhere in the hospital you could name. I could work on the floors with the white nurses, but when time for lunch, we would go down to the cafeteria. They had a flower border separating us. We sat on one side, they sat on the other. And then when we finished eating, we'd go back up, meet at the elevator, and we'd go back upstairs and go to work together. But we really had, I love nursing so much, so we really had a good time. As for, like I said, being a caregiver, when I was 9 years old, I lived across the road from a family by the name of Grady's. And they had a child that was disabled, and she was blind. And so her mother would love for me to come over and play with her. And I can remember now making the little mud pies, and I would teach her how to, hope that she couldn't see, but we had so much fun. I was teaching her how to make her mud pies and all. But like I say, growing up in Stafford, we had, like I said, we had fun. I lived around 3 other white girls. We played together, but we had to go to separate schools. And of course, I couldn't go to a store with them, because we weren't allowed to go to the store unless go to back doors. And I had other great friends from the hospital. You know, we had fun at work, but we just couldn't really go until it changed. This when the hospital integrated, then you know it was different. The first integration was the pediatrics. I worked with a girl. She was from Rhode Island, and you know up north it was things were different than down here, and we had patients that of course we wouldn't mix like babies that had croup or babies with diarrhea. We didn't mix them together. And one day we had we had some in it that had like croup, some in it had like diarrhea, and so it was a child that came in, and they said that either they had to put her in a hall, put the baby in the hall, or whatever. So Grace, I never forget, she spoke up and she said, babies don't know color. So she put the baby that, the two diseases, let's put it that way, two illnesses, she put it together, and it wasn't too much said about it. So, but anyway, that's how I remember getting started, as those two on pediatrics started, and then it eventually, because I was working on pediatrics at the time, so it eventually went to the hospital. But like I say, the black people were on the fourth floor. Yeah.
How has growing up in Stafford County shaped you as a person? How did those experiences?
Like I say, it shaped me fine because I learned we had hard work. We didn't have the luxuries of a lot of people. We had outdoor plumbing, and we had to bring water, and we had to help cook wood. And I remember getting my sister and I around August, the 1st of August, we would start getting our, I guess you can say, our winter wood together. My mother used to, and father used to raise everything, chickens, all the food that we ate just was raised. But my mother, she was finished with chickens and stuff. Until one day I was laying down on the floor because it was so hot. We didn't have air conditioning. So I was heard on the radio where you could get 100 baby chicks for $1.99, and I couldn't believe that. And I ordered them under my mother's name. And when I never get out, mailman was Mr. Deere. Didn't have UPS and all that back then. He brought them in the back of his trunk. And my mother and Mr. Deere were arguing. She said, "Mr. Deere, I did not order any chicken." She said, "Mary, yes you did." And I tell you, I never did that anymore because I had to help with those chickens. But after that, that was the last of it. But what I was going to say, my sister and I, we would started getting like little kindling and little, I guess you could say, small dry wood, and we would fill that chicken house up. So when we came home in the wintertime, when my mother needed, to get us to get the wood in, we would already have that. We would go down to the chicken house and get that little stuff, as it's called kindling, to start a fire. And then, okay, if the snow was on the ground, my father would chop the wood, but we had to get it in. Mm-hmm. And, we had to draw water, and, it's just, we worked. And like I said, I'd worked just was all my life. Not only did I work, my mother had a job. She worked like a day a week at this, it was a lawyer, and his wife on Wednesdays, but their backyard was bricked. It was like it was a city block long. I would go on Saturdays in the fall, and I would sweep that backyard. Got me a couple dollars, and then I had also went with my mother when she worked for a lady in town that was named Mrs. Elsa Ginther. Her fireplace was featured in Freelance Star back here a few years ago. And I used to go help my mother to rub on that fireplace stuff, and and she would shine it up good though, but I would help her rub on it. So I you know, with working, I really did. Like I said, my opportunity of going to, I was really afraid. I was nervous about going to Stafford High School. You know how you had that, I hope it won't be my year. I hope it won't be my year. But it was really a blessing because my parents didn't have the money to send me to college. So, but to get that nursing degree, it really. So, you know, so Stafford really, you know, to get that time when I did, it was just a blessing.